A few years ago, my friends and I decided to rent an Airbnb cabin deep in the woods for a weekend getaway, hoping to escape the noise of the city. We found a charming little cabin for a great price, tucked away in a forest, with the nearest town about a 30-minute drive away. It seemed like the perfect spot to relax and unwind. We arrived in the evening, and the first thing we noticed was how unnervingly quiet the woods were. No birds, no rustling wind, just an eerie silence that made the place feel off. We unpacked our bags and settled in, exploring the cozy cabin. It had large windows that looked out into the surrounding forest, but as the sun began to set, the trees outside started to take on a more ominous feel. That first night was uneventful, aside from a strange sensation that someone, or something, was watching us from the woods. We brushed it off as just our imagination and exhaustion from the trip. The next day, we decided to explore the area. The forest was dense, with trees so tightly packed that they formed a canopy overhead. After walking for a few hours, we stumbled upon something unsettling, a tree with strange carvings all over its bark. The symbols were crude and unfamiliar, spiraling up the trunk. It looked ancient, as if it had been there for years, but something about the markings felt recent. The air around the tree felt colder, and there was an odd stillness in the clearing, like the forest was holding its breath. On our way back to the cabin, I noticed something strange lying on the ground, an old, rusted knife, half buried in the dirt. It was odd, considering how isolated the place was. We talked about it for a bit, but ultimately brushed it off as just something left behind by a previous visitor. That night, things took a turn. We were sitting around the fireplace when we heard a strange noise, a faint scratching sound, like something was clawing at the walls from outside. We all froze, listening. The noise went on for a few minutes before stopping abruptly. I looked out the window, but there was nothing out there, just darkness. Still, the unease in the cabin was palpable. Later that night, after we had all gone to bed, I woke up with a weird feeling, like someone was standing by my bed. I opened my eyes, but there was no one there. But then I heard it, slow, creaking footsteps across the wooden floor, moving towards the door. My heart was racing, and I stayed as still as I could, trying to make sense of what I was hearing. And then, just as suddenly, the sound stopped. The next morning, one of my friends mentioned that they had a nightmare. They saw someone standing outside our window, staring in with dead, hollow eyes. We laughed it off, trying to shake the creeping fear that had been building up since we arrived, but it was clear we were all on edge. As we were gathering our things and preparing to leave, I noticed something out of the corner of my eye. The rusted knife we had found in the woods was now lying on the windowsill, just outside the cabin. None of us had brought it back. It was as if it had followed us, a silent reminder that something in those woods wasn't ready to let us go. We stared at it for a long moment, feeling a chill that lingered even after we turned away. We packed up and left as quickly as we could, and none of us ever went back. Even now, thinking about that place sends chills down my spine. Something out there didn't want us to go.